All right, everyone. That was a wonderful presentation from Craig Cummings. We're going to move on to our next speaker today. We have Carl Lepper. Mr. Lepper is a delivery product manager in the Global Business Intelligence Division, focused on energy practice at JD Power for the past 16 years. His responsibilities include managing and supporting clients through custom analysis, executive presentations, and consulting. Mr. Lepper also provides oversight of national syndicated studies, including questionnaire design and development, fielding, data analysis, and delivery. Support to senior directors, research operations, and project management with all aspects of each study. Thank you so much for being here. It looks like your mic is off. If you could just click that little mic symbol, and then we'll be able to hear you.
How's that? There we go. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for letting me be here. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. Not very nice of you to put me right behind Craig, because I was really enjoying listening to him, and his 40 years of experience is just really honestly amazing. So that was kind of wonderful to get to listen to, and what a great way to kick off the event, right? Someone with such experience. I'm going to kind of go a different angle today for you guys. So I'm going to look from the outside in what I do at JD Power. Now, if you've ever heard of JD Power, you know that you've probably seen our trophy and probably seen it next to a car somewhere. We obviously have a very big automotive section, but we also have a lot of other things, including banking, insurance, and of course, utility. And I've been with that practice for over 15 years now, and gotten the privilege to work with CEOs for electric companies, gas companies, and water utilities as well. So it's been really kind of a wonderful experience. And today I'm going to kind of take you through it. I'm going to kind of tell you what your customers might be saying. Now, a lot of you might not have customers. You might be vendors of utilities, but a lot of you are probably also with utilities as well. So I'm kind of wanting to give you what I know about what your customers expect from their water utilities. So it's kind of going to be my direction today. And the first thing I want to do really is kind of get you guys level set. I want to kind of get your mind around the universals, I'm going to call it, of a customer experience. So let's kind of start in the left-hand corner here. One of the things we see, and if anyone ever contacts you, and one of the things we talk to a lot of call centers about is really just that, please say thank you. It means a lot. It means more than you can imagine. When you're contacted, to really appreciate your customer, whether you're going to a restaurant or whether you're going to, any place where there's a service or someone is helping you get something done, just that appreciation is really important. And as kind of Craig talked about the value, and it's not how much do I pay for my water, it's really around, do I feel it's a fair price? Some companies are very, very prolific in marketing that so that they tell people it's a fair price, but other people really understand it at a foundational level where I'm not getting overwhelmed with my water bill. And I like the way Craig mentioned COVID and what's happening there. We've been asking your customers about COVID, and I actually have some information here at the end around their opinions of COVID and where things are going. But that is definitely the #1 topic on most CEOs' minds right now that I've talked to. If I go around this kind of counterclockwise, then you kind of see the trust. If you make a promise, please keep it. That bottom line, and that's true of anybody, right? Of any time. But I really do want you guys to understand, if I say I'm going to be there at X time, I expect you to be there at X time. If I say it's going to take this much time to fix this particular damaged pipe or something, I expect it to be truthful. You just have to keep following through with promises. Because broken promises lead to mistrust, and broken promises really lead to, they can lead to a lot of public affair issues as well. So you really want to make sure that trust is being kept with your clients. Advice, just recognize when someone might need help. With COVID, this is really popping out. So that everyone knows, the industry, not just this industry, but all the industries that I work with, all utility industries, have had a huge increase in satisfaction during this year. And a lot of it has to do with the reach out and the how can I help attitude that utilities have really taken with so many of their customers. Because you know the ones that aren't paying, you know the ones that are in trouble, you know the ones that need the help the most. And in that reach out is really making a difference. It's like, hey, I know you need help. Here's what we have. How can we help you? And I do know that some places, they still won't talk to you. They're still going to be untouchable as far as they will never talk to you until you actually say, you owe me X dollars. And then they give you a call and start talking to you. We understand that happens, but really that recognizing when someone needs help is huge and very important in the industry right now. Recognition, the new trend now, if any of you have ever called like an Amazon or a certain other like Discover card, when you call them, they already know who you are. In fact, they probably already know why you're calling. And that isn't becoming, you know, this big fancy new thing. That's becoming the norm. We have the technology to your phone number. We have the technology to link that to your data. We have that technology to know that you called 2 weeks ago about so-and-so or this particular case of need. And we know that that's probably why you're calling back, or we know that you owe money, or we know that, you know, whatever. That recognition, that knowing the person is becoming more and more the norm in the industry right now. And then the last one here is convenience. Just make it easy. I had a great story with a lady I was talking to in Texas, and she said that as she fell asleep and by accident bought a pair of shoes on Amazon, which I thought was just the greatest story ever, because my wife started using that one on me. But what I want you guys to hear is, how easy is it to buy something on Amazon? Is it that easy to pay my water bill or my municipal bill from my city, because my bill is through the city or whatever? Am I all set up? Does it remember my credit card? Does it know who I am? These aren't conveniences anymore. These are, again, becoming the norm. Technology is really driven forward through automotive and retail and lagged behind by utilities for the most part. We're catching up. We're usually playing catch up. We don't use the agile method of developing websites. Most cities I go to, the website is the same it's been for the last 25 years, you know, since the internet was invented for the most part. All right, so I kind of want to keep that in mind as I go through this, and I'm going to go through it a little bit faster because I know I'm on a time limit here, and I will get yanked with a hook when the time is right. All right, so how does the water utility industry do? Last year, I don't have all of 2020, that's why I'm showing 2019. 2020 is still in process at JD Power. But last year, unfortunately, water utility residential scores were only better than your internet provider scores in the country. I'm not even using automotive in here because they're all in the 900s. Obviously, if you go buy a car, you're very happy with it. But you can get a feel for different areas. Businesses in the utility industry are much more satisfied. Guess what? They're more communicated with. Residential gas is high, electric is lower, and water is even below that. So I want you guys to go in with a mindset that this might be a little bit new to a lot of water industries, this approach of, hey, let's look at it from the outside in. But it's not new for the rest of the industry, and it's not new for other markets. Because it helps with that customer journey, and it helps with mapping out how to take away pain points and make the experience as good as possible. So I will sit on this one a little bit because this is a lot of what I promised to deliver today, which is understanding what's most important to a water customer. And so in the middle here, in this middle section, if you can see my arrow, I hope, those big percentages, that is our model. And that is a model that we didn't come up with in a dark room, you know, spending 30 hours drinking coffee. That is a mathematical model based off of all the responses that we receive. And then we lock it in for a few years so that it's apples to apples year to year. So what this model tells me is that the most important thing for your customers is the quality and the reliability of their water service. That's true in natural gas. That's also true in electric. Keep the lights on, keep the natural gas flowing, and keep the water high quality. You know, don't do what Flint did. and reliability. I mean, I don't want a boil advisory. I don't want, misread meters. I want this thing to be solid every time, and that is the largest part of our model. Next is price. So price does matter to your customers, as COVID will definitely demonstrate, but there's a lot of value involved in that price. Conservation, what we're talking about today, the whole symposium, is very important to your customers. It is the third most important part of your customers. And again, there's a caveat, it's customer service, and I'll get to that in a sec. Billing and payment, communications. Think of communications really has a touch point in everything. So remember that that's going to be the case. So customer service, 6%. Is it really 6%? No, it's not. The thing is, in our studies, we don't ask about a customer experience unless you've had one in the last 3 months. A lot of people haven't. In fact, probably about 2/3 of the people we surveyed they haven't contacted you. They haven't gone to your website in the last 3 months. So if they haven't contacted you, the model doesn't include customer service. But if they have, then the importance is that lower right-hand box, 27%. It becomes one of the most important interactions they have with you, because now you're a person. Now you're not just this bill that comes, you're actually somebody, or you've helped them in some way. Because usually a customer service contact is because there was a need, and so hopefully you met that need, and it becomes a very important part of that interaction. So I do want you to think of it that way. So the rest of the page here, it's a big study. We've been doing it for 5 years. We are getting over 32,000 responses, and this questionnaire is over 160 questions. It is deep. It is very deep. If I see that something's wrong in billing and payment, I can go to diagnostics, and I can go to metrics, and I can keep going down until I find and point to and say, look, this doesn't seem to be working. Let's look at this and see if blah, 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 it can be fixed. And then the other thing I really need to make sure that you guys hear is that we do the survey regardless of if you're a client or not. And so we have a threshold to be in our survey, and the threshold is that you have 400,000 plus residential customers in EPA data, because we have to use a government official EPA data to see who meets that. And right now in the nation, 90 brands meet that qualification. And straight away, all 90 brands are within our study and something that we are interviewing. So you can see the depth of this. 90 brands, 32,000 responses, and 160 plus questions. So I love data, thank goodness, because I live in it. Now we do segment it by region because different regions act differently, and we segment it by how many customers you have to try to help people use benchmark in this survey a little bit better. So that's kind of where that breakdown is coming from. And yes, every one of those segments does receive an award at the end of each year. So how do you do? I'm kind of keeping this higher level. I wanted to show you by state here first. And Texas is in the middle. In general, Texas is in the middle in satisfaction across the country. The top brand is, the top state, I should say, is Washington, with that 764 in the upper left. Second is New York, of all places. Third, Nevada. And if you go the other way, Alabama has the lowest score, and right behind that is Wisconsin. So you can kind of see different parts of the world, and it's interesting because these all have different challenges, as you know, kind of what Craig was talking to between the states. Now the grade states are states that we don't have enough completes that I really wanted to show you the data. We have some there, or maybe that particular state didn't have a big enough brand to be in our study, so that's why I have some grayed out here. All right, I'm going to move a little bit faster as we go, which I did promise I would do. So what drives satisfaction? Well, these three drive it an awful lot. In fact, the #1 driver of satisfaction is if they feel their utility does a good job of maintaining the infrastructure. 63% of the nation feel that way. And that has an impact on overall satisfaction of over 100 points. So very important. The #1 state when it comes to that is Virginia. Texas is in the middle again. They're 64%. So a little over the industry average, but kind of in the middle. First contact resolution. When someone says they contacted you, we ask them, was it resolved on the first try, or did it take multiple tries to get whatever you were asking for, the need, as I mentioned earlier, resolved? 56% met that. #1 in the country is New York when it comes to that, at 74% FCR. Texas again in the middle, 57%. And then the last one, this is a Texas challenge, I'm going to call it, water mineral content. If they stated they felt the water was either soft or normal, 72% met it in the country. Texas is at 64%. Oregon, number one, 89%. So you can see that is one of the challenges Texas specifically has, and I doubt anyone listening in would be surprised at that. As a conservation symposium, I want to make sure I touched on conservation awareness. We ask how aware you are of conservation efforts by your water utility. So really, anyone listening right now, their eyes should be popping a little bit. You should be taking pictures or whatever you guys do now. Aware of conservation programs, 52% in the nation. Texas is 54%. So you're above the industry average. The difference in scores is drastic between aware and not aware. And that does not mean they're doing anything. It means I understand and I'm aware that my utility has conservation efforts in play that they are working on and trying to help me with. So this is a marketing thing. This is not that it's telling people what you do. It's not bragging or, it's just keeping people aware of what you're doing. I always liken it to your kid that comes home and you ask, so how was school today? Fine. What'd you do? Nothing. You just don't really know what's happening. You know that your kid went to school, right? You don't know what they learned. You don't know if they're being bullied. You don't know if, their friends, blah, blah, blah. You don't know anything because you're just not getting the information. And what does that leave you? Questioning, not knowing, curious. And it really has an impact in satisfaction here. And as you can see, ensuring water for the future, another big impact. And also protecting water supplies, because man, people are passionate about their water supplies. It's amazing to me. And again, Texas is doing a very good job in all these. And I actually have the South in there as well, just so you can kind of see the South region, which would be from Texas all the way over to Florida. I wanted one more thing to point out to you guys. So here's by brand on the left, brands with the most water usage restrictions according to their customers. And if you look at my map, you can see the West has more restrictions than anybody else, but it's followed closely by the South. Now the West, I live in California, just so everyone's aware, and we've been on a drought for so long that yes, water restrictions are very in place in our heads. We understand, and it's very important. And in the South, it's also the same. The other thing I want you to note is of the brands that we grab and take care of in our study in Texas, 5 of them are on this list. So great job to all 5 of you, all 5 of these brands. The only ones that really knocked out of the park were some really drought issued areas like Fresno and Las Vegas. I kind of like this personally. I wanted you guys to see this because this is interesting to me. We asked, do you drink the tap water? And, always drink it, sometimes drink it, never drink it. It's kind of the responses we were getting. And it's interesting that in our study, 32,000 respondents, only 25% drink the tap water unfiltered, basically. Now, there's 2 points I want to really get into here. One is, and I've already talked about it, is kind of near the bottom here, this water mineral content. I already talked to you, that is an opportunity, definitely, for Texas. But the other one that I didn't talk about yet is unfiltered water safety. Do you feel it's safe to drink the water? Now, if they always drink the water, 87% said they feel it's safe. If they never drink it, it's completely opposite. Big gap there. Now, here's what you need to know. Texas is almost in last place as a state when it comes to that one I have highlighted in orange. They have 59% in general, 59% of the people feel that their unfiltered water is safe. The industry is at 64%, just as a comparison. So that is definitely an opportunity for anybody in Texas, I would say, is that if the water is safe, please prove it. Show me or tell me or kind of. But because I guarantee it's safe, it's how you're communicating it, and pretty much If you've had boil advisories, or if it tastes bad, or if it has a bad smell, as Craig was pointing out, they don't feel it's safe even though it is. And your water reports don't really help the common person to know that it's safe to drink, because it's in a language they don't understand, right? It's not simplified to a typical customer's way of understanding it. I wanted to also give you a little bit more analysis on just Texas here, just for fun. On the left, this is quality and reliability scores. And of the brands that we survey, this is all the brands we survey in Texas. Aqua in the south, because Aqua is in more than just this particular region. In the south, Aqua scores the best, followed by San Antonio Water. So it's kind of, you can see the top three there, Austin Water as well. So they're doing extremely well in Texas as far as water quality and reliability is concerned. Now in the middle, we talk about infrastructure. Is Aqua maintaining the infrastructure? 79% of the people that took our survey said, yeah, they are. They're doing a good job, which kind of blows everyone else out of the water. So they're, get it, the pun? So Aqua South does a very good job there. And then on the right, because I talked about it in the previous slide, I wanted to kind of mention it here as well. Those who never drink the tap water. So you want this to be a low percentage. Austin Water, 80% of the people drink the tap water in Austin, according to our survey. And you can kind of go down and see what's the one that's the biggest challenge. It's the city of Houston. And if you look to the left on the orange, city of Houston actually scores the lowest in quality and reliability as well. So if I was talking to the city of Houston, I would say if this is true, then this needs to be worked on. But also, if it's not true, you really have a PR campaign needed for your customers because they feel this is the case. So I'm talking about communications here. I want to kind of keep that subject going and really point out to everyone the importance of communicating with your customers. There obviously is a cost involved in this, but nowadays it's not as much as you think because there's so many other forms of communication that can be electronic or through social media or through Facebook or whatever your particular community is attached to the most. But what I want you to see is the industry only is recalled in a communication from the utility, not media, but from the utility 30% of the time. And the score in red, as you can see, is very low when that happens. Any communication above 0 is an increase to your scores, period. Increase to the satisfaction. And it's that, I'm going right back to that kid coming home from school and saying, yeah, nothing happened today. You know, that lack of communication really has an impact. And so what I want everyone listening here to say or hear is communication, you can't over communicate, by the way, and people want to be communicated to. So never forget that when you're kind of making decisions, especially if it has to do with, if it affects your customer in any way through a new bill or a new price or a new, anything, a new water report. The other thing that I do want to mention, as I have a few more minutes here, and I'm kind of 2 more slides here, so I'm in great shape as far as time. When they contact you, how are you doing as an industry? So on the left here, I'm comparing water utilities. North and south is how often in our study people contacted their utility in the last 3 months. Right and left is satisfaction with that experience. So what you're seeing is water utilities are being contacted more often than gas utilities in our studies. And our gas utility is even bigger. I think it's over 60,000 responses. And our electric study has over 100,000 responses. So in just this left side here, I'm talking 200,000 people finishing our studies. And you can see water utilities get contacts more often, but it's the least satisfying of the 3. So when they're contacting you, are you doing a good job and are you helping them in the way they need to be helped? Are you helping them the first time? Are you giving them the channels to contact you they want? Are you giving them the opportunities to work with you as they would want to? And on the right-hand side, I've spread it out a little bit. So each one of those gray dots is is one of the 90 brands that are in our study. And on the right-hand side, north and south is your website. And right and left, or east and west, is they called your CSR, they called your call center, or whatever your particular setup is. And you can see there's quite the spread. Now, the way in the right and way on the top, that one little gray dot standing out almost 900 on both is OUC. So over in Orlando, that is the one getting the top marks in water. Now, they are also an electric brand, and that probably helps them out in this case. In the lower right, you kind of have some other water utilities that I don't want to point out because I don't want to pick on anyone, but I also put Texas as a state right dead center because that is where you guys stand as a state. Are there opportunities? Absolutely. There always is. But I wanted you guys to see you're kind of in the middle again, but as an industry, you're a little lagging the other industries that I particularly look into. I'm going to finish you guys off today with a couple interesting COVID facts. On the left is a question, and I'm blown away by this. We ask people, are you concerned that COVID can be spread through water? And concerningly, a lot of people feel the answer to that is yes. So of the people we asked, we didn't ask this all year. This isn't 30,000 responses. We asked this because we do this wave quarterly. We asked this in our last 2 quarters. And I was blown away that 43% of the people that took our survey do feel that you can get COVID through their water supply. Boy, you want to talk about something I would start communicating about. I'd quickly remind people that is not the case because now they're fearful of drinking your water. On the right-hand side is an overall question we ask about COVID, and I marked it by region. We have this all by brand as well. And you can see the South does very, very well, but I also want you to see in June, the scores were much higher than in September. So guess what happened? June, when everything was fresh and new and people were listening the most, man, the scores were the highest. And there was a big bump in all our industries, but that's starting to fade. The honeymoon is over, so to speak. As COVID lingers, so do people's opinion of the response. And as Craig mentioned earlier, how are you going to handle those people that are now going to be disconnected? How are you going to handle those people that can't afford their bill? How are you reaching out to everybody? Are you still communicating as much as you were, or are they so inundated with communications that now they're just not listening as much as they were anymore? And so I wanted everyone on this to hear and see that there is definitely a drop in satisfaction around COVID in the water industry just between June and September. So kind of amazing that it dropped that much. That's kind of all the time I have for you guys today. Megan, I'll throw it back to you and see if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lepper, for that wonderful presentation. I have to first comment that the infographics in your presentation were getting some love in the chat section. So
fantastic.
We do have time for a couple questions. This first question is regarding the 2020 Water Utility Residential Study Overview. One participant wants to just clarify, was that 32,000 responses nationally? And doesn't that seem like it doesn't seem like a very large sample size for something that everyone uses? So kind of a question comment combo.
No, it's a great question. It is nationally, and we get to that number because we are putting a quota or we're putting a goal on every single brand individually. So every brand, we have a goal of X number of completes. And for JD Power, the requirement to give a trophy is 100 completes for anything we do in our any industry. So that would be at about the 9,000 mark. So you can imagine how much more than we get across all the brands. And we do get, we do have a quota stratified plan. So if you are a bigger utility, then we actually do get more in general, and we group them so that so-and-so gets 500, all this group gets 500, all that group gets 300, whatever the goal may be. So that is a part of the JD Power process. 32,000 though, I mean, most of the stuff from the recent election is under 800 complete. So 32,000 is an awful lot. Actually, if I have more than 100 completes, I can say with confidence, this is how people feel about you. And I'm at 32,000. Well, okay, I'm very confident. So in the market research world, it's a good number. It's actually very high.
Thank you for answering that. We have one more question. Can you recommend specific types of communication platforms over others to reach the most people?
The ones I've seen, and I would honestly copy Tico People's Gas if you ever do this, is that there shouldn't be one particular branch you use. Tico is expert at using, I think, 9 or 10 different ways to communicate because everyone wants to be communicated with differently. Some people read their bill inserts, some don't. Some people like to look at YouTube clips, some don't. Some people want it through Facebook. I mean, there's such a wide grouping, and it's age-based sometimes, it's location-based sometimes. It's kind of what are you trying to communicate and who are you trying to communicate to. So I would say the multi-channel is the best bet, and half of those are free. They're emails. Emails is the cheapest one you got, but I would challenge everyone: do you have an email address for every one of your customers? Is it in your CSR agent's hands? If you don't, then you're kind of hand-strapped. So multi-channel works the best. Your bill insert probably hits the most in general. So that would be my general feeling on that one.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you, Megan. You've been wonderful.
Thank you.